Greetings rockers and welcome to the best new show in the metalverse. I'm Vanessa Warwick and you may remember me from back in the day on MTV's Headbangers Ball. But fast forward, we are here at the heart of rock and roll hospitality, the Karma Sanctum Hotel in London, where every rock star on the planet stays and plays. And in today's show, I'll be checking in with owner Mark Fuller to talk about this iconic hotel and his long-term association with Iron Maiden. Well, I have so been looking forward to welcoming my next guest. It is Mr. Mark Fuller, who is the owner of the hotel, the Karma Sanctum in London, where we are fortunate enough to film.
Well, I would have been very offended if you hadn't have had it. And also, you're a lot of fun, and we enjoy seeing all the bands coming in and out. Adds a few extra bands to the daily backwards and forwards of rock and rollness here. And we kind of like you here.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, it gives us extra rock credentials.
One would hope.
Now, tell us about, the Karma Sanctum and how it came about and what the concept is.
Historically, I was 16 years in Hyde Park, 10 years at Download, doing all the backstage.
Hospitality.
Hospitality.
Yep.
Well, they used to call it hostility.
Yes, I remember that.
Until I took it over, and then it was hospitality with a laugh. And I do all the backstage for Maiden and all that sort of stuff. And as you know, that Andy Taylor and Rod Smallwood are my business partners who manage Maiden, who also were at Sanctuary. So they managed Led Zeppelin, The Who, you name it, Wasp, Guns N' Roses, the whole bit. So, through the years, I did all my stuff with the chefing stuff with Marco Pierre-White and all that sort of, and got a bit posh for a while. Found a suit, lost it. And so when this site came up, we had a nightclub, we had a hotel in the country, we had a couple of fish and chip shops and this, that, and the other, couple of bars. And it was enormous. So we looked at it and I went, well, let's turn it into a rock and roll hotel. And Rod Smallwood and I were having a drink. And he said, you know what, Mark, in 35, that was then, 15 years ago, in 35 years of touring with Maiden, he said, I've never actually found a hotel that actually told the truth about was the bar open when I got back from the gig. He said, what would actually happen is I would ask, is the bar open? And they'd say yes. And when I came back, the lights would be up, there'd be a man doing the hoovering. And if you were lucky, you got a warm beer or a gin and tonic with no ice. So he said, why don't we look at this? Why don't you look at this to do a rock and roll hotel, but not what people's perception of rock and roll is, but what the rock stars would actually like. And what they would like is somewhere that's small, we're only 30 bedrooms, that's got a nice bar where you can have a fag. We got a rooftop bar, throw a jacuzzi in for a bit of craziness and everything else, and some of the dancing girls, and do all the bits and pieces that bands would really actually like when they come off stage or when they're relaxing and everything else, and also the same with the rooms. Everyone thinks that, rock and roll these days is obviously, there's a lot of bands out and they actually need to sleep and everything else, so give them a decent bed. Anyway, we looked at the site, we worked out we could make 30 bedrooms and we could do it. And that is why the Sanctum came about, because it was a hotel built with the knowledge of rock stars, for rock stars. Strangely, the very first night I opened, Tom Jones was in the jacuzzi. Not very rock and roll, but I suppose it's kind of rock and roll. I've spent many a night or a sunrise with various band members who will remain nameless, watching the sunrise come up and everything else. But now we're here, and we're still rocking. We still got everybody coming in. The room that we're in, we have live music here because we've had everybody here. We've had Gene Simmons has played down here, half of Metallica are playing down here, a few of the Maiden boys, Nico rehearses down here every now and again. But a lot of the new young bands have come in that are unsigned. A few have been signed from it, and we continue. In fact, after we're in a bit of a hurry here because after we finish this, there's a band coming in right now. And we've developed it. We've done some recording down here and everything else because you've got to adapt. So we've adapted the hotel. We've adapted the world of rock and roll. It's still a lot of fun.
Well, it is, and I'm so privileged to be a member here. And
You are.
I love coming
You
here.
are.
But I do want a little bit of an exclusive from you, if
Go
you
on.
don't mind.
Depends.
Has Eddie ever been here?
Eddie.
Or have people that
We've got,
look like Eddie?
Yeah, there's been a lot of people that look like Eddie.
At 2 o'clock in
I
the
believe
morning.
we've had the odd Eddie mask in here.
Oh, okay.
We do have.
I saw Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine when I came for lunch here.
Yeah, well, there's a few that come and go. We've just said goodbye to young Billy Gibbons. Again, he lives here when he's here. We're doing an exhibition for Scott Gorham upstairs at the moment for the art that he found under his bed. All sorts of bits and pieces recently. Trivium, Bullet for My Valentine, we're here doing their launch. We might not have an Eddie here, but I do have an original Tom Baker Dalek, which is sitting outside, which is actually Bruce Dickinson's, because Bruce was here during lockdown. People do walk past and go, why is there a Dalek? Now, the real simple reason is there a Dalek is because Bruce didn't know what else to do with it. The greatest thing about this hotel is it is like a sort of boiling cauldron of metal, rock, you name it. Everybody's wandering in and wandering out and staying and not staying. And whether it's Billy Gibbons having his breakfast in his pajamas, or Bruce wandering around, out singing to the staff, or Nico coming down here after breakfast and rehearsing. So we had Zeb Minto from Iron Maiden Productions come by, and of course I do a lot of work with her backstage when Iron Maiden get me out to make the sandwiches. She gave me this pen, which is just entitled Mr. Fuller GSD.
Yeah.
Gets shit done.
Well, you do.
But it's like, life's too short. Life's too short. And otherwise we're losing it, and we're losing it in commerciality and everything else. The whole point about rock and roll, the whole point about hotels, the whole point about bars, okay, it should be fun, it should be a laugh. What we're doing now is a laugh.
Yeah, quite. But I think it's so great that you welcome everybody personally, and you're so visible around the hotel, and you make introductions to people.
Oh, always.
Always.
I've been responsible for death almost.
Of this hotel.
Yeah, sometimes I get it really badly wrong, and I come back the next day and they're still there talking. Yeah.